this network of local government energy, people working in local government energy stuff keeps expanding. And this is an opportunity for you to expand your personal network by introducing yourself to somebody you don't know before today, either at one of the breaks or at lunch or something like that, and really taking advantage of this kind of unique opportunity. There was a lot of good sharing going on yesterday, so hopefully there'll be a lot more of that going on today as well. We're really happy to be in San Jose today, and very happy to have the mayor of San Jose here to welcome you. Chuck Reed was elected as the 64th mayor of San Jose in 2006 and re-elected again last year, and he had served 6 years on the city council before that. Since taking office, he's been committed to improving the quality of life in San Jose, and in 2007 he launched the Green Vision, which is an ambitious 10-point plan to invigorate the economy and improve the environment over the next 15 years. So please welcome Mayor Reed.
Thank you. Good morning. I want to welcome everybody to San Jose. I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm a little bit taller. I'll put it back, I promise. I hate being leashed, tethered, whatever. Anyway, welcome. On behalf of the people of San Jose, we're happy to have you here. On behalf of our citizens, the work that you're doing is important to us. I want to thank you for coming on behalf of our hotel workers because, spending your money here is a good deal. I understand some of you probably went out to dinner last night, so thanks on behalf of our restaurants. And looking at this crowd, I think even a few of you might need to be thanked on behalf of our nightclubs. So most of you don't know what that means, but some of you do. So thank you for being here. And my one request is that you leave town broke. So spend everything you have. There's plenty of things to do after this conference is over. Don't leave until you've maxed out your credit cards. So we appreciate that because the local economy can always use a little boost. Although the local economy is actually doing pretty good relative to many other parts of the state, many other parts of the country. We're pleased to be the capital of Silicon Valley, the world center of innovation, and the economy is growing here because our tech sector is doing quite well. Not the entire economy because we got 30% unemployment rate in construction trades and things like that, so their sectors aren't doing well, but at least the tech sector, which drives our local economy, is doing very well. Now, we haven't seen that in our own city revenues yet, so we're looking forward to the day that they start washing through sales taxes and property taxes increases because we don't have enough money. And one of the reasons we're interested in energy efficiency is about the money. And I mean, it's a good thing to be energy efficient. All the environmental things are wonderful, but saving money, now that's the best. And that's really important in local government. And what I've discovered here in the Valley with the kind of companies we have here, we have thousands of tech companies, and many of them are in energy efficiency, doing it different things. And not just a company founded to do energy efficiency or a company founded to do one thing or another. It's all over the Valley. And as I'm out talking to the CEOs of our tech sector companies, which I do on a regular basis, I discover all kinds of interesting companies working in this area. So, for example, not only do we have companies that are just doing energy efficiency and convincing people that they can retrofit their existing buildings and save money, we have companies like Fairchild Semiconductor, which is one of the oldest companies in the Valley. When I met with their CEO, I discovered that they have a new controller that they're selling around the world that will reduce the electrical consumption of an electric motor by 40%. So they're going to make money off of energy efficiency. And what I've become convinced of is that the technology is not the issue. That technology is going to drive this. And if we could keep up with the technology, if government could keep up with the technology, we'd be so much more energy efficient than we are today. So I'm not worried about Silicon Valley and the innovation that'll happen here because that's what these companies do. They're responding to a market opportunity that's in the billions, if not trillions, of dollars. And so the technology is going to be there, constantly improving the technology, constantly bringing down the price of the technology. What I've discovered is there's impediments to the implementation of this technology, and it's bureaucratic inefficiency and financing, at least on the government side. So on the government side, we have to figure out how to do these things with other people's money. Because even if you've got a rate of return on your investment of 1 year, it's difficult to set aside the money in these economic times for local government. Now, we're fortunate to have a great relationship with PG&E, and they constantly hand us checks for energy efficiency savings, and we really appreciate that. That makes it possible for us to do more, because it's our policy to set aside the savings from energy efficiency for 2 years to use for more energy efficiency before we abscond with the money into elsewhere in the budget. Now, we're not always successful in doing that. It's a difficult thing to do, but we do know that we can save money, and a lot of money. San Jose was the first major city in the country to do LED traffic signals, and we save about $1 million a year on electricity costs on our traffic signals. We're trying to do the same thing with our street lights. We have 62,000 street lights in San Jose, a lot of light for 1 million people that we have here. Being the 10th largest city in the country, if we can do it, then every city in the country can do it. But again, it's about financing and bureaucratic inertia. So let me explain the bureaucratic inertia. This is California. Need I say more? Even in the green state of California, where environmental issues are high priority, energy efficiency, energy conservation, all matters around energy are high priority. It is still a very difficult thing to do, to make some changes. And we're fortunate to have a good relationship with PG&E, so we go side by side with PG&E, sometimes to the PUC, sometimes to the state legislature. But when you have to go to the state legislature and get a bill passed, and then go to the PUC to get something done, that takes a while. And we've successfully done that a few times, but it is very difficult to overcome that inertia. And it slows down the process and slows down the implementation of the technology. In fact, the process on the government side is sometimes so slow that the technology is 1 or 2 revolutions ahead of us by the time we can get there. But nevertheless, we make progress. In San Jose, we're doing that under the guise of our Green Vision, which is our roadmap to becoming the world center of clean tech innovation. We adopted 10 long-term goals, big goals, bold goals, but not impossible goals, including to facilitate the creation of 25,000 clean technology jobs. Because we know that this wave of innovation is critically important to Silicon Valley, and it's important to us. We want to make sure that we capture the jobs. But part of what we have to do under our green innovation is to help implement the innovation that comes out of this valley. And energy efficiency is clearly something that's happening here. So we want to reduce our energy consumption by 50%. And we want to get all of our electricity from clean, renewable energy sources. Those are 2 of our 10 goals. And in order to do that, we have to have innovation and implementation. And we are blessed with the fact that we're the capital of Silicon Valley, and I can go out in my backyard within a few miles of radius of this building and talk to hundreds, if not thousands, of companies that are working in this area. So we will demonstrate for the country how to make it happen. And hopefully we will lead the state in implementing the goals set by the governor and the legislature, because we're San Jose and we have this opportunity right in our backyard. So we carry the mantle of capital of Silicon Valley very proudly. We brag about it a lot, but it does mean that we have opportunities other cities don't. So while you're here, you'll learn about some of the things we've done, but we also know that we don't know everything, and that we need to learn from other cities and other municipalities about how you figured out how to work with other people's money, because ultimately it does take money to do this, and that is the key to success. By investing money, we can save money, and sharing ideas and successes in settings like this is critical to making sure that everybody gets a chance to learn and to succeed from others' successes. So with that, I want to thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me a chance to talk about San Jose, to brag a little bit about us ourselves. I'm not immune to bragging about it, so I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Thank you for the work that you do. I'm looking forward to hearing some of the problems that you've solved that we've been working on, so that we can move ahead in our own city. Thank you all for being here.
This forum's also sponsored, though it is sponsored, excuse me, by the Foreign Investor-Owned Utilities. And today we have someone here from PG&E, we're in PG&E's territory, to offer some words of welcome as well. His name's Mark Krause, and he's PG&E's Director of Statewide Agency Relations. He's responsible for handling interactions with all the state agencies except for the Public Utilities Commission, for which he's probably happy. He personally handles interaction with the members of the California Energy Commission on Integrated Energy Policy Report, on proceedings on greenhouse gas emissions, and power plant permitting, and combined heat and power. But he also is the lead at the State Water Resources Control Board, the State Coastal Commission, and the Board of Equalization. So please welcome Mark Krause.
Thank you, and I guess in the mayor's terms, I'd be an inertia fighter, or maybe So on behalf of Southern California Edison, the Southern California Gas Company, San Diego Gas and Electric, and Pacific Gas and Electric, I want to welcome you all to the second annual Best Practices Forum. I want to emphasize, you can kind of see in the state's energy policies, both in the loading order where energy efficiency is first, even before renewables, and we all know how important renewables are to people right now. Energy efficiency is first in the loading order, and also I want to point out when I was at the Governor's Conference in Los Angeles on Monday and Tuesday on distributed generation, where people were there just to talk about how we can get renewables out in the community, several people pointed out the importance of energy efficiency first. It doesn't make sense to try to put more solar or wind, as much as we want those in our communities, if we can reduce the amount of load in the communities first. So the work that you're all doing here is very important to us, and I just wanted on behalf of the utilities to welcome you and look forward to our partnership. Thanks very much.
Okay, we're really glad to have Commissioner Douglas. She couldn't be here in person, but she's coming in from a feed from Sacramento. She was appointed by Governor Schwarzenegger in February of 2008 to the Energy Commission. She fills the attorney position there. She currently presides over the Efficiency, Siting, and Federal Stimulus Program Committees and is the associate member of the Integrated Energy Policy Report Committee. Before her appointment, she was the director of the California Climate Initiative at Environmental Defense, and before that, she spent 4 years at the Planning and Conservation League as a Natural Resources Director, General Counsel, and Acting Executive Director. So please welcome Karen Douglas, Commissioner from California Energy Commission.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you today. I'm really sorry I couldn't be there in person, but the state still has travel restrictions in place, and so that's why I'm videoing in. And thank you for accommodating that. I'm here to speak about the very important topic of local governments working on implementing some of California's most cutting-edge efficiency programs. We've achieved a lot together, and in the future, we have the promise of even more energy savings and even more partnerships with local governments. First of all, I want to thank you for your tremendous partnership and collaboration in the Energy Upgrade California program, which is a new residential retrofit program that is forming some of the groundwork for the Energy Commission's implementation of AB 758. Together, we're working to reduce energy use, create jobs, revitalize local economies, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve air quality, and train contractors in building energy awareness. And at the same time, through Energy Upgrade California, we're working to reduce consumer confusion and help consumers who want to save energy and want to retrofit their homes access rebates by multiple utilities and local governments and take advantage of financing programs. Energy Upgrade California is an unprecedented partnership between California government agencies, multiple California government agencies, utilities, and local governments. The program in Energy Upgrade California will help us implement AB 758, which is a Nancy Skinner bill that calls on the Energy Commission to develop a comprehensive residential retrofit or residential and commercial retrofit program in the state of California. And this program needs to be done, in our view, working with the Public Utilities Commission and the utility programs, working with utilities and working with local governments to get all of the elements that we think are necessary for success in bringing programs that people can use at the residential and commercial level. The AB 758 calls for a portfolio of techniques, applications, and practices to improve buildings that fall significantly below the current California building energy efficiency standards. This program will need to incorporate financing options, a rating system for buildings, energy performance disclosures, efficiency recommendations, and efficiency improvements. We would invite you to consider hosting a meeting in your area as work to develop this program moves forward, because it's very important to us to work very closely with all regions of the state, and certainly in the San Jose area we have seen tremendous leadership in these types of programs. Other areas where we have been working with local governments, in some cases for quite a long time, include the Energy Conservation Assistance Account, which we call the ECA account. This program has provided technical assistance to local governments and provided project financing for local governments to do energy efficiency improvements on public buildings. Since 1980, this program has provided $264 million in low-interest loans through a revolving loan fund to hundreds of schools, hospitals, and local governments, saving an estimated $50 million in energy costs per year. In terms of the building standards, the Energy Commission has also worked closely with local governments and would like to continue the partnership and continue to work closely on enforcement of Title 24 building standards so that we can be helping builders build developments that comply with energy standards. In terms of future activities, we're on our way to building standards that achieve zero net energy by 2020 for homes and 2030 for non-residential buildings. Our 2013 building standards under Title 24 envision energy savings that would be an improvement of 33% to 44% compared to the 2008 standards. We're also looking at water saving measures. We're looking at requiring roof deck insulation in residential buildings, encouraging proper building orientation for passive heating and cooling and also for solar, and thermostats that can be upgraded if the consumer chooses, and only if the consumer chooses, to either receive demand signals from utilities or to respond to signals from an in-home network that consumers can set up through their own computer or through their iPad. For the first time, we're considering photovoltaic panels the path to compliance in our energy efficiency Title 24 standards in newly constructed residential homes that will use more than 10,000 kilowatt hours per year. And in addition, for local governments that want to adopt the more aggressive REACH standard developed through Title 24, we're considering a photovoltaic requirement for both newly constructed residential and non-residential buildings. Through our appliance standards, we're continuing to zero in on energy savings. We have enacted, at this point 2 years ago, the nation's first efficiency standards for television. And this year, we're reaching closure on efficiency standards for battery chargers. And these are battery chargers from appliances ranging from, for example, electric toothbrushes, computers, power tools. These are devices that can be made more efficient, that the standards that we propose will save the electricity equivalent of about a medium-sized peaker plant. And to give you an example of the energy use, battery chargers use 8,000 gigawatt hours of electricity per year, of which over 5,000 gigawatt hours are wasted as heat during the charging process or after the battery is charged. So this is an area where we see substantial savings, and once we get to closure on the battery charger standards, we're working on scoping out which new appliance standards we will undertake. So these are a few of the things that we're working on at the Energy Commission and that I've been focused on as part of the Efficiency Committee. I look forward to working closely with local governments because we view local governments as really critical partners in making efficiency programs happen throughout the state. So that's the end of my prepared remarks. I'd be happy to take questions if people have questions.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Douglas. And I know she's been very open to meeting with local government people and learning more. So does anybody have a question for the Commissioner? Okay, when I come up to this microphone over here. I may have to repeat it too because I think the feed is actually coming through this computer and not that, but we'll see.
Thank you. My name is Eric Pearson from the City of Hayward, and I think I heard you say that you're considering requiring solar PV in new residential and commercial buildings. I'm just wondering, is that something that might be incorporated into the next state building code?
Did you hear that question, Commissioner?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay. The question is, are you thinking about incorporating PVs into the next state building code?
Yes. So we're considering incorporating photovoltaic panels into the next state building code for houses that use 10,000 kilowatt hours or more a year. So these are houses with large energy use. And also as an option in the REACH standards. And sometimes local governments implement and make our REACH standards mandatory. Our REACH standards are not mandatory statewide, but they can be made mandatory. Now, these are proposals that our staff is holding workshops on right now. So these proposals may be modified through the public process, but the proposals are out there, and this is what we're actively considering.
Okay, any other questions? Don't be shy. Okay, here's another question.
Arthur Young, Green Building News. Usually we're interested in what will the state do for us. We kind of think that your position is in the current budgetary situations is a little precarious itself. What do you need from us?
Okay, the question is, what do you need from us, the local governments here in the room, to help you with your precarious budgetary situation?
To help us with which situation, I'm sorry?
Well, he mentioned the budget, but just, I think, what do you need from us to help you do your work, I think?
Okay. All right. Let me talk about that. I'll just clarify one thing with my prior answer for the large 10,000 kilowatt hour or more residential homes. Photovoltaic would be a path to compliance, but it would not be a requirement, so other paths to compliance would be available. In terms of what we need from local governments and how we're partnering with local governments, in the Energy Upgrade California context, local governments are closest to the people and the infrastructure in the areas that they serve. And so local governments are taking the lead on marketing the program in many cases. They're taking the lead on distributing the marketing material. The people will tend to go through websites that the local governments establish or help maintain or help update, so that on those websites people get information on which contractors are approved for these programs in the area, what rebates are available, rebates not only from the Energy Upgrade California program specifically, but also from utilities in that area. So local governments have also been really instrumental in shaping many of the programs under Energy Upgrade California. Energy Upgrade California is an umbrella program that provides some resources to sub-programs throughout the state. And so some of those programs have been very, very much shaped by local governments, including the ABAG program, the Los Angeles County program, Sonoma County program, and more, the San Diego program, and so on. In our Title 24 standards, we're working with the building officials, who are a very important part of making the Title 24 standards work. And so, although the California Organization of Building Officials is an active participant in our standards making process, we need to work more closely with them and really make it both easier and more effective on the business official, building officer side, so that the standards have their maximum effect. In, of course, the renewable energy world, we have other partnerships with local governments. So we have really seen that there is quite a lot that local governments can do. Obviously, local governments can adopt tougher energy standards than what we put out in Title 24. Title 24 is a floor for the state as a whole, and we have found over the years that more and more local governments are requiring additional measures on top of Title 24 in order to achieve even more savings. So we really view this as a good thing. We've also seen local governments move pretty far into the green building world and look at requirements for savings on top of energy savings. And that has also been an area of real innovation. So these are some examples, but of course there's a lot more, and it's really been great to see the leadership come out of local government.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the commissioner? Okay, I guess not. Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Douglas, for being here and taking this kind of electronic leap. Thanks.
Well, yes, thank you for making it. Thank you for making it possible for me to take this electronically.
Okay, thank you. All right.
All right, take care.
Bye. Oops. We also have from the state today too Anthony Eggert, and he's replacing James Goldstein. He's very graciously come, on 2 days' notice. In fact, he was here last night for the reception. He was appointed in February by Governor Brown as the Deputy Secretary for Energy Policy at the California Environmental Protection Agency, Cal EPA, where he currently oversees clean energy and environmental policy development for California. His prior positions within California government include as a California Energy Commissioner, and hopefully we'll see him back there again real soon, and as Science Technology Policy Advisor to the Chair of the Air Resources Board to help implement the Global Warming Solutions Act, or AB 32. So please welcome Anthony Eggert.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Trying to see who was qualified for the third thank you for staying out at the clubs late last night. There was a risk that I was in that third category, but I escaped it just barely. So I am here replacing James Goldstein, who's the executive officer of the Air Resources Board. I'm not going to claim to be a better speaker, as you suggested. James is quite an excellent speaker, and he does send his regards and his regrets. But I'm also very honored to be here. This is a subject that I'm very interested in and very passionate about, and that is energy efficiency and the potential for the shared partnership between the state and local government. Also very happy to share the panel with Commissioner Douglas. I had the great pleasure of serving with her at the commission, including on the Energy Efficiency Committee. If she was still on the thing, I would have noted that the two of us very recently challenged the commission staff for the Maya's Bike Month Challenge, and this is a regional activity in the Sacramento region to challenge people to consider using their bike for a certain portion of their trips, errands, commutes, etc. The region logged over 1.3 million miles this last May. Over 450,000 of those were commute and errand miles, saving over 400,000 pounds of global warming emissions, over $100,000 in avoided fuel costs. And I'm also happy to say that both myself and Commissioner Douglas got trounced by quite a few of the commission staff, over a dozen, including one that rode over 1,000 miles in the month of May. So I want to, Commissioner Douglas did a great job of talking about some of the specific programs within the commission. I'm going to maybe come up a little bit higher in elevation to talk about sort of the broad suite of policies and programs that we have, that we're looking at through the Cal EPA and the Air Resources Board, administering and affecting the future of the energy economy, and then maybe zoom back down specifically to look at the role of local governments. And I want to try to leave you with sort of 3 key points. If you fall asleep after these, that's fine. And that is that, number one, that the clean energy and energy efficiency sectors are going to provide some of the most profitable business opportunities in the 21st century. And it's going to be those, number two, those organizations, those companies, those jurisdictions that are able to establish the right mix of policies and strategies to take advantage of these opportunities that are going to be the winners in this new economy. And then number three, this is not going to happen overnight. There's been numerous mentions to the word of inertia. There is a significant amount of inertia in the system, and it's going to require all of us working together, both the public and the private sector, if we're going to make this happen. And there's going to be many bumps along the way. Just to throw out some numbers, California annually spends over $130 billion a year on energy services. That includes electricity, natural gas, and petroleum. These are actually 2008 figures, so that's probably going to be higher this year. Over $80 billion is spent on petroleum alone, of which over half comes from outside the U.S., over 2/3 from outside of California. Collectively on energy, that's over $350 million per day that we spend to buy energy for our homes, our businesses, fuel for our cars, trucks, and trains. And I think, to me, these numbers tell a number of stories. They demonstrate how much money is at stake for our energy consumers and producers, and how vulnerable we are when we see, and as we have seen, rapid increases in the prices of these commodities that can really have substantial impacts on our local economies. They also speak to the very large size of our energy systems and the level of investment that's going to be required to transform these. These are literally, multi-billion-dollar investments if we're going to want to see a change in these systems. This is a massive undertaking, and it is going to take some time. We also know that the use of this energy in many cases causes other impacts to our environment, climate change, local pollution impacts, and that those impacts we're starting to see the effects on even today here in California. Sea level rise, increased prevalence of wildfires, increasing temperatures that exacerbate air pollution problems that we already have. And this is something that's going to continue, and we're going to have to figure out how to adapt to that, even while we're also trying to do our part to mitigate those impacts. The good thing is that we do know that cost-effective solutions exist, and I think that's certainly going to be one of the main themes of today's discussions. But in terms of the state's perspective on this, many of you are, I'm sure, are familiar with AB 32 as one of the sort of umbrella policies that guides our thinking in looking at how this energy sector is going to transform across the state. This establishes goals of achieving 1990 level emissions by 2020. That's really what I would call a stepping stone along the path towards our state's contribution to a stabilized climate, which is an 80% reduction by 2050. And this is going to really require, like I said, some pretty substantial changes. So I'm an engineer by training, and I like to break things down into their component parts. And if you think about the generation of greenhouse gas emissions, there's really three pieces. There's the carbon intensity of the primary energy supply, how much emissions is produced for every megawatt hour delivered. You have the efficiency with which you convert that primary energy into an useful service or product. And then finally, you have the total demand for that product. And if you multiply that out, you get the total generation of greenhouse gas emissions. The last two of those are really relating to the efficiency piece, which is, like I said, the demand. And just in brief, some of the key policies that we're pursuing at the state level across the major sectors, starting with transportation, which is the largest contributor to both our energy and our climate change challenge, about 40% for climate. We have sort of a three-pronged approach. We have an approach that addresses the carbon intensity of the fuel, called the Low Carbon Fuel Standard, which requires sellers to reduce carbon intensity by 10% by 2020. This really creates a new value stream for the providers of low carbon fuels, whether it's advanced biofuels, hydrogen, or electricity, which we're starting to see a really exciting shift in the market towards things like electric vehicles. This allows those providers to get value from those sales, and we expect that this is going to create a market for as much as 4 billion gallons of low carbon fuels by 2020. On the vehicle side, we have the Clean Cars Law, which was based on a law passed in 2002 by then Assemblywoman Pavley. That is now a national program based on an agreement with the industry and the Obama administration. And we are really, as we speak right now, discussing and negotiating the next round of standards, which is going to be 2017 to 2025. And that's going to sort of set the stage for the country in terms of the transition of our vehicle fleet. And then finally, the state did attempt to tackle what sometimes is characterized as that third shaky leg of the stool, which is the demand side, through a program, again, I'm sure many of you are familiar with, which is the SB 375 Sustainable Communities Strategy, and that establishes performance targets for regions, tries to align planning for transportation and housing so that sustainable community strategies can be developed, and then incentives can flow to developers for those strategies to be realized. Fully implemented, this program is expected to reduce the need to drive, provide further options for transportation, including biking and walking, reducing congestion, petroleum consumption, and providing for healthier communities. I'll come back to this. On the power generation side, again, on the first term, trying to reduce the carbon intensity of the generation side, we have the recently adopted Renewable Portfolio Standard, which requires the sellers, including PG&E and others, to never mind that. Requires the sellers of electricity to procure and sell 33% of their sales as new renewables. And I think one important thing that not a lot of people are aware, that new renewables doesn't count large hydro, it doesn't count nuclear. Expectations are that by 2020, more than half of all electricity produced in the state will be zero carbon. And of course, we're seeing an incredible amount of exciting activity in this space. There's also a big push and a recent conference hosted by our governor looking at how to accelerate distributed generation for renewables throughout the state as well. And then finally, the efficiency piece, and it's been mentioned by Mr. Kraus and others that this really is California's #1 resource, energy efficiency. And it's delivered tremendous benefits throughout the state, estimates of over $60 billion in savings over the last 30 years. It's allowed us to stabilize per capita electricity consumption while the rest of the country has grown substantially. One of my favorite metrics of this is that in California, we generate 68% more gross domestic product or gross state product per unit of energy used compared to the rest of the country. So we have a very energy efficient economy that I think has delivered significant benefits. And this is really, energy efficiency is oftentimes referred to as the proverbial low-hanging fruit that keeps growing back as long as you keep watering it, of course. And so, Commissioner Douglas mentioned a variety of the programs, certainly the building and appliance standards as being sort of a critical component of that. The utility programs administered by the utilities have provided tremendous savings over the years. And really our new focus, as the Commissioner mentioned, is to go after what we see as one of the biggest remaining, largest, juiciest pieces of fruit, which is just sort of kind of staring us in the face, but has been so hard to reach, which is existing buildings. And residential and commercial buildings account directly and indirectly for about 2/3 of California's electricity consumption and about 1/4 of all of our greenhouse gas emissions. And so, again, as the Commissioner mentioned, we're initiating a wide variety of programs to try to take what I would characterize as somewhat of a cottage industry, which is this industry focused on trying to retrofit both residential and commercial buildings and really turn it into an economic powerhouse in the state and take advantage of one of the sectors of our economy that has been hurting, which is the construction sector. Put those people back to work, putting in insulation, basically putting in more efficient air conditioning systems, sealing, and really taking sort of a whole house approach, moving from what we have been doing in the past, which is sometimes called the widget approach, changing out light bulbs, providing incentives for specific appliances, and looking at the house as a system, and you can get a tremendous synergistic effect by doing that. And that's going to be a major focus of certainly the Commission and the state going forward. Okay, so zooming right back down before I close, so the role of local government. We like to think of ourselves at the state level here in California as the leaders in developing the policies and the programs on energy and climate, but I think some humility is in order. We're really taking the lead from local governments. And even before AB 32, just as an example, there was the U.S. Conference of Mayors Climate Protection Agreement, established in 2005, originally signed by over 140 cities, probably many of you in this room. That's now grown to over 1,000, well over 100 here in California, basically pledging to do their part in addressing the climate challenge. And one question is why have cities been at the forefront of all of these programs? Well, certainly, again, as the Commissioner mentioned, the local governments have a critical role in the solutions and actually applying the solutions. And again, if you look at the total generation of GHGs within the state, about 2/3 of it is associated with our built environment. The way that we get around our houses, residential and commercial, in a similar proportion of our energy consumption is directly impacted by the decisions that are made at the local level. And then I think probably more importantly, it's because that these cities see that their actions, they see direct benefit in these actions for their own sort of economic and self-interest. That is that things like building retrofits and solar installations provide local jobs, greater energy efficiency reduces expenditures, that includes more efficient mobility systems, reduces people's expenditures on fuel, alternatives to petroleum also reduces expenditures on fuel. And that money not being spent on these commodities that are typically outside the community is then available to be reinvested in the local community, whether it's going out to restaurants, nightclubs, or otherwise. I think the other reason is that, and the mayor spoke to it, I think, quite eloquently earlier this morning, which is that there is a huge business opportunity here. And that is, we're seeing in California just in 2010, the largest infusion of venture capital in the clean sector, nearly $4 billion, larger than it's been in any other year, even despite some of the challenges in the financing world. And 50% of more than 50% of the nation's total in clean tech VC funding is coming to California. And a significant fraction is actually coming right here to the Bay Area. That is going into the design and development of new energy efficiency products, renewable technologies like the one that is offered for a tour later today. And there's a competition that's occurring among local governments to attract those jobs, and I think that's going to provide significant benefits in terms of local economic activity as well. So I want to close, and I look forward to your questions. I think we're kind of really at a critical juncture here in the future of our energy systems. And I would say this is definitely true for California, but it's also certainly true at the national level. We have a choice. We can continue to follow what we've been doing, which is a continued reliance on depleting and polluting fossil resources, or we can choose to follow a new path, one that favors energy efficiency, clean energy, renewable energy, and low carbon fuels. I think in California, we have made that choice. I think it's clear that we are on a path towards a cleaner energy future, and we're going to reap the rewards and the benefits from that path. We also have, I think, a responsibility and an opportunity to show that this can be done, that the benefits do accrue if you follow that path, and hopefully we can get the rest of the country to join with us. And then lastly, I would say that this is, like I said, this is going to take some time. If you look at some of the sort of the transitional timeframes that are associated with, for example, turning over the building stock, or even just retrofitting the building stock, turning over the vehicle fleet, and especially trying to change our cities to be more walkable, bikeable, transit-oriented, this is really going to require a sustained effort over many years. And if you think about where we need to be, where we think we need to be in 2050, and you look back to today, you realize we're already a little bit behind. There's really no time to spare, and we should all be working together to make sure we succeed. So thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Anthony. And are there any questions for Anthony? We have a lot of time before we have to take our break. Would you come to the mics, because it's being recorded as well.
My name is Linda Gianelli Pratt from the City of San Diego. It's very nice to see you again. So at the city level, we do want to offer support that would be the best for the CEC and for all of us as a whole. And there's a number of assembly bills and Senate bills that have been proposed. And I don't know that I, for example, at the City of San Diego can take action and support all of them. So if you were to give me like your top two that we could support, what do you think is most significant to the success of all of the things that you talked about?
Man, tricky first question. So I probably can't speak specifically to legislative support because we're going into the final stages of session, and that's definitely a delicate topic. But I think maybe as a more of a general statement, I think trying to understand, what are the existing barriers that we have that is preventing us from maximizing the benefits associated with either smart growth development or energy efficiency deployment, and what is there a role for state legislation, statutory legislation, that can address some of those barriers? And I think I'm aware of some bills that are attempting to do that in some cases smaller or larger ways. Certainly I think SB 375 was a great first step in trying to address some of the challenges associated with providing both the planning tools and some of the CEQA incentives for smart development. I think we're definitely looking for suggestions to further improve that framework. So I think again, without speaking to any specific legislation, there's definitely an openness to considering new ideas. So, hope that helps.
Thank you. Anybody else with a question for Anthony?
A small punt, I'll admit. Maybe a large one.
Well, here's another one to punt on, I think. I'm with the city of El Cerrito, and a good portion of our SB 375 strategy was reliant on redevelopment. And now that redevelopment no longer pretty much essentially exists, what suggestions do you have for communities that have a very, very hard time attracting high quality investment in really fulfilling the goals of SB 375?
So this would be for things like infill development projects and things of that sort?
Yeah, housing, infill development. One of the other things is that we have consolidation of parcels that can attract developers who would be doing things like that. So.
Right. So I think maybe just a brief comment about the sort of the state's efforts in this regard. There is, I would say, this is a trend that started with the last administration, but I think is going to continue in substantial earnest with the new one. And that is that, despite some of the financial challenges, there's a real desire to try to make the most efficient use of the scarce resources of the state. And so the Strategic Growth Council, which is a council that is comprised of the 5 of the agency secretaries that have some purview over growth activities within the state, is right now going through a strategic planning process and trying to understand how to best align state policy, funding programs, grants, and others to help facilitate successful deployment, enable the local governments to be successful in the implementation of SB 375. So you will see new grants that'll be coming out, planning and implementation grants that'll be coming out from the SGC. That's one potential source. I also think, this is not my area of expertise, and I know there's going to be some sessions later on financing, but it does seem that a lot of the barriers that exist to redevelopment are not necessarily so much financial. It's basically providing a lower risk profile for developers that want to go in there and develop the types of housing developments that seem to be increasingly in demand. There's been the shift, towards I would say the market is at least signifying that there's a shift towards more mixed-use infill type residential development. And I think for local governments, figuring out ways to lower the barriers for the developers to get in there, whether it be permitting issues or zoning, is one way in which to do it at a very low cost to the jurisdiction. So.
Great.
Excuse me. There isn't a state official in this sector that doesn't get up without mentioning the magic 2 words, that it's not the economy, it's energy efficiency. What I don't understand, having been in the green building field for 14 years and been an observer for 30 in this state, is that this state has in no way made any effort to sell energy efficiency to other states, not because it's good for them, but because we, Californians, need allies. And we are not strategically positioned to have as many allies as we would like. One, why is it that the state doesn't go out and sell energy efficiency as a concept to other states? More importantly, what are we doing to get the message across in far greater impact than we have to date that energy efficiency really is gold? People are thinking solar when tightening up the envelope in their house is a much more critical and low-cost decision. We use the expression a low-hanging fruit like that, but people out there don't get it, and we haven't done a good enough job to sell it.
So excellent questions, and I'll try to take them separately. So in terms of partnering with other states, I would suggest that there is some efforts along those lines. Certainly any chance that I get, I know Commissioner Douglas is the same. If we get an opportunity to travel outside the state, if we're allowed to, then we are efficiency evangelists, you might say, speaking to the benefits of California's programs, and other states are starting to step up. I mean, certainly the northeastern states, you might even argue that they're neck and neck in terms of some of their efficiency programs. There's now there's the Clean Energy States Alliance, which is a wonderful consortium of some of the states that see energy efficiency and clean energy as being sort of paramount to their interests. We have initiatives through the Western Climate Initiative and other multi-state efforts to try to spread the good word. And also, I think you're right. That there's a multitude of benefits of getting others to join. Of course, if we care about climate, which I do, we do need other states to join. We really need a national and international solution. And it's also, we have the fact that we're developing all these companies here in California that are developing these products. There's a great opportunity for what you might call industrial policy, which is that we can sell these to other states and other countries that also adopt similar programs. So I think it may not be happening as quickly as we might like it. Basically getting these other partners to sign on, but I think we're making slow progress. And then to your second question on efficiency, also in the context of solar, the Energy Commission, was there when they were establishing these programs under ARA, made it a very specific point to require that for those programs that received state funding, that they had to invest in energy efficiency first before going to solar. And that actually got a fair amount of pushback. I think some of the solar developers saw it as a potential market barrier for them to go in there and sell the largest system right off the bat. But the commission held its ground. That's now very firmly embedded into these programs, I think, for the good. And we are slowly starting to see people make this connection. And actually, one other area I didn't talk about too much, just briefly mentioned the fact that the electric vehicle market is taking off in California. It's still small, certainly as a fraction of the overall market, but California is capturing most of the national market for EVs. And there we're seeing the purchases of those EVs asking this question, which is, how does this interact with the rest of my home energy consumption? And one of the contractors that administers the state's grants for EVs, it's CCSE is the acronym, is starting to direct people to Energy Upgrade California to say, hey, you're bringing on this new load in your home. You might want to think about potentially also getting an energy efficiency retrofit while you're at it. And they also administer the CSI, so they're pointing them to the solar grants as well. So I think we do have this great opportunity to take advantage of these programs and educate people about their potential synergies and the associated benefits with combining activities. I think we're just starting down that path. We're sort of scratching the surface on it.
I was just going to add to your comments about the whole house retrofit program. I'm from the city of Burlingame, and we had one of the ERA grants where we're retrofitting certain facilities, but we've utilized it all. And I was just going to suggest or ask if there are policies for cities' community buildings where they're going to be further funding or loans. Now, some of this is maybe too detailed to answer, but as a general policy, because these cities have just absolutely no money to fund these retrofits, and they have an aging infrastructure, and it's not just the roads and transportation, it's their facilities, and there's nothing to do it with. And it makes a big difference, and it also sets a model for them, the residential program, because it's a good advertising mechanism for the. So just any comments that you have on that?
Actually, just a quick question. What service territory are you in? Your
Burlingame, San Mateo.
That's
PG&E.
That's
PG&E, yeah,
so,
yeah. And they've been working with us. They've been working with us. They're doing a great job.
So
but I'm talking about a bigger picture. We don't have enough.
Right. So I think we are. We're also through. Energy Upgrade California, I think, is a good model because. Again, that's really sort of an umbrella that tries to plug in all of the available programs on the residential side. Through on the local jurisdiction and municipal side, CEC had administered a program called Energy Conservation Assistance, ECA. There might be another term in there, but it was mentioned by the commissioner, which were very successful in getting local jurisdictions to take low-interest financing to make capital investments for energy efficiency. That program fund replenishes as those payments come back in and will be made available for future loans. There's also some discussion, including within the legislature, about potentially supplementing that with additional funds, so there may be sources there as well. Again, I would recommend participating in the latter session on financing. I think there are a multitude of potential creative financing mechanisms. Some of the utilities are experimenting with on-bill financing for commercial properties, and I think that has great promise and potential. And really, I think it is, certainly one of the barriers associated with energy efficiency, despite the fact, again, that it seems like these things should be sort of obvious investments that, if they pay back in a matter of a couple of years, then, why aren't they happening? And access to financing, easy and easy to understand financing is one piece. Having better information about what the most cost-effective energy savings potential exists within these buildings is important. And actually the Commission is invested in quite a bit of diagnostics activities, both for commercial and residential. On the residential side, there's the thing called HERS, which again, many of you are probably familiar with, which attempts to establish a rating for homes that eventually we hope become a core component in people's decision to buy homes, so that an energy efficient home is just as sexy as granite countertops and 3 bathrooms. So I think there are these modest programs, and definitely keep an eye out for more. So.
Anthony, I wanted to suggest that Mr. Arthur's question about how to spread this to other states. A lot of folks aren't aware of decoupling in California. The fact that utilities' incentive to sell more electricity has gone away because the profit motive isn't there. We don't make more money based on the amount of electricity we sell. That policy decoupling in California, I think maybe the last Brown administration is when that took place. So spreading that to other states is very important. But it also explains the sort of low-hanging fruit scenario of California has done a lot to get to what is reachable easily. And I wanted to ask you, with nearly 12 million metric tons identified in the AB 32 scoping plan for GHG reductions for energy efficiency, what are the game changers? What are going to be the new initiatives in energy efficiency that are going to make that kind of a difference going into 2020?
So I think your point on decoupling, I think, is a good one, and that has been part of this story. Another efficiency evangelist is former Commissioner Rosenfeld, who continues to sort of travel the country and speak to the benefits of decoupling, and I think that's also borne some fruit. In terms of the game-changing technologies, I think it really is this sort of confluence of providing people the opportunity to invest in energy efficiency, renewables, and some of the new technologies for demand response, automated demand response, that collectively have the potential to provide these really deep reductions. And again, I would say we're really just getting started on this, especially for the whole building approach for existing stock. And we're going to be learning quite a bit along the way, so we have to expect that we want to have sort of an adaptive strategy where we see programs that are realizing extremely deep reductions. And I think, I've seen estimates and studies of technical potential on the order of 40% or more with the existing stock, which is huge. That if we could get that kind of savings and deep penetration across both sectors, that would go a long way to meeting that goal. And actually, one of the key components of these programs and the utilities' ongoing programs is the idea of having really good data collection. So making sure that we're collecting the data with appropriate privacy controls to make sure that we are evaluating what works and what doesn't, and then feeding that information into future programs or the evolution of existing programs, so that we really are focusing our efforts and our resources, our scarce resources, on those things that make the most difference.
So maybe one more question.
Thank you. My name is Brent Butler, and I'm with the City of East Palo Alto. And of late, I've recognized that one of the aspects of accommodating decrease in the carbon intensity has to do with education. When I started walking to eat, I would frequently be stopped and asked if everything was okay. So my question goes to the heart of in the third approach, demand for the product. What do you see as some of the potential areas of growth? I know that many communities are advancing forward with climate action plans, and I was hoping just to see where that may lead. And also, that's a two-part question, looking at that as an opportunity for cities and how legislation might be changing with regards to that. And the second part of the question is has to do with the renewable energy portfolios standard. And, some different nations have looked at the potential for restructuring and have found that the ability to supplant existing carbon fuel footprint-based technologies is very difficult to replace with renewables, and that they have identified what the maximum potential might be. And I was hoping from you to hear what you feel that might be in terms of a realistic opportunity for reaching a 50% renewable portfolio.
Okay, so at the risk of using the word sexy twice in a talk, borrowing a quote from another colleague, Steve Winkleman, who's been focusing a lot on research of resource-efficient communities, saying that we need to make sidewalks as sexy as hybrids, and make sure that it's people realize that walking is a really viable means of transportation. In fact, most of the major metropolitan cities around the world that people would characterize as having a very vibrant urban feeling, Copenhagen and Amsterdam and others, biking and walking is perhaps as much as 50% of the mode share, vastly more than even car ridership. So, in terms of so I think maybe to get at the two of the questions, just a quick point on the climate action plans at the local level, I think are a wonderful tool that cities can use to look at all of the suite of opportunities that exist to address not just climate-related emissions, but also energy consumption and the potential that exists for clean energy and energy efficiency within their communities. And what we're seeing from those plans is a wonderful creativity and ambition, looking at how they can help facilitate even things like electric vehicle deployment, not just building efficiency and renewables. and also really trying to address some of these barriers and challenges that exist for how long it takes for somebody to get a permit to put a solar installation on their house, writing in ordinances that enable that to happen much more quickly, so that the city is an enabler for those types of actions. And then in terms of the potential, I think it's important to note we're sort of a wash in energy. And actually, in California, we're quite lucky because we do have, I would characterize, an abundance of renewable energy, especially the sun. We have the amount of sun hitting the California, even just a fraction of the desert is well more than we would need to power everything here in the state. Of course, the challenge is taking that energy and then converting it into useful electrons that can then be transported to the load centers through a transmission grid at a reasonable cost for the ratepayer. And so we are looking at a variety of different scenarios that allow us to get to the 33%, and then perhaps beyond. Again, the resources there. It's just a matter of how you do this in a way that is reasonably costly, or at a reasonable cost. And then furthermore, you can strike that from the video. And then the other thing I think is on the DG side. So as I mentioned, the governor hosted a conference earlier this week on the potential for distributed generation, localized generation, and I think we see that there is a huge potential there to dramatically sort of change the nature of the grid in a way that provides both greater flexibility. Renewables acts to some degree almost as a demand reduction, within those sectors, but it has to be managed because there is the uncertainty associated with intermittency. And some of the really neat technologies, to Mark's earlier question, we're seeing where there's actually some grants through the commission looking at sort of how to manage localized grids for them to be better customers to the overall grid. So just one of my favorite examples, because I'm a bit of a tech geek, in San Diego, there's a consortium that is implementing some of these technologies where they have optical eyes that track clouds coming across the sky, and so they can predict with some reasonable certainty that the output of the solar system is going to be reduced by 10% in the next hour, and it starts to trigger demand response, dimming lights in parking garages or hallways that are not occupied, and then basically when that cloud comes over, the rest of the grid doesn't see any difference because the load is reduced commensurate with the output of the system, and it just looks like a flat line demand. So I think if we can fully take advantage of some of these really, really cool ideas that are being demonstrated within these local consortiums, I think we could go to quite a bit higher levels than we're currently anticipating. So.
Thank you very much. We really owe a big round of thanks for him because not only stepping at the last minute, he's the highest local or state official here is taking all the hard questions. So thanks, Anthony, very much. Okay, so for the morning sessions, and they have 5 minutes to kind of convince you theirs is the one you want to attend. So we have Liz Yeager here from the Sonoma County Energy Independence Program, Skype, and she's going to talk to you about the Sustainable Financing Program, which will be in salons K, L, and M, which is in that direction, immediately after the break.
Okay, well, being in energy and sustainability, I imagine everybody here has quite a long to-do list. If you don't, see me later. But one of the big barriers to that is financing. It's financing for us in local government and financing actually for the public sector, the private sector as well. So in our session, we're actually going to have Mary Tucker, energy manager from the city of San Jose, to talk about the revolving energy fund, starting that, how do you manage an energy fund, and Janet Purchase from the county of Riverside. So we've got a city and a county perspective on revolving energy funds, and how do you protect that valuable asset in today's economic climate. And then in our session as well, I'll actually be talking about PACE, our PACE program in Sonoma County. It's alive and thriving. A lot of people might think PACE is dead, but we're up and running in Sonoma County. I'll be able to talk about that, the financing structure for that, and actually the interesting piece of incorporating that into the Energy Upgrade California model.
Thanks, Liz. So that's the sustainable financing. That'll be down there right after the break. Next, we have Nancy Jenkins. She's the manager of the Energy Efficiency Partnership Program in Southern California Edison, and there are over 100 cities in the cities and counties in the partnerships for Edison, and they oversee over $125 million worth of programs. So Nancy, and she's going to be doing the benchmarking practices, which is going to be in salons A and B in that direction right after this break.
Thanks, Pat. So our benchmarking session, I think, is going to be a really exciting one. I think many of you know that benchmarking has now taken a pretty prominent place, and well-deserved, I think, in our world of energy efficiency. So one, there's legislation that actually requires benchmarking for buildings that are going to be changing hands as of January of 2012. Sorry. Also in the CPUC decision for 2010 to 2012, they have directed the utilities to provide very specific services to support the community in the benchmarking area. So I think that coming from a couple of different directions, there are regulatory requirements for benchmarking, but more importantly, I think this is an area that we're going to see playing a much bigger role in helping not only, well, at this point, the commercial world, but in the future, probably the residential world as well, have a better understanding of where they stand relative to others. And it's going to really, I think, play an important role in just the education for the general population about energy efficiency of the buildings that they either live or work in.
Thanks, Nancy. So that's going to be benchmarking practices, salons A, B, and C over there, right after the break. We're going to do Yvonne last because she has a PowerPoint that wasn't loaded up here yet. So we're going to just jump to the afternoon sessions, but I'll remind you again before you break out. And Frank, you want to go first? Frank Spasaro is currently responsible for managing the local government and institutional energy efficiency partnerships for both SDG&E and the gas company. He's also responsible for developing and implementing the on-bill financing, which was pioneered in SDG&E's territory, I believe, under Frank's leadership. And he's going to talk about breakout number 3 in the afternoon, technology best practices, which will be down in KL&M in the afternoon break.
Thanks, Pat. I think that was the glass that fell earlier. So good morning, everybody. I think you're going to have some really tough choices to make. It's good that we split things up so you don't have to pick one out of the 5 that you're going to be hearing about. So my session is on the technology stuff. And I think we've got 3 really exciting speakers. The first one we have is Forrest Kaiser from Energy Solutions. He's going to talk about the new ARA-funded program for the Energy Technology Assistance, which is a new program that will offer you guys a lot of energy financing assistance, or not financing, but incentives and other resources. So you can learn what it is, what qualifies, how to get access to the money. I'm also told that if you don't show up to my session, you can't qualify for any of it, so you have to come. So I may have made that up, but So the second part of our session is going to be we're going to have Brendan Reed from the City of Chula Vista and Linda Pratt from the City of San Diego to talk about a really unique effort that we put together in San Diego for street lighting. It was based on an effort where we put together a disparate group of folks that were fighting over how you go about doing street lighting activities, and I think you'll learn about how we did that and what came out of that. And it's pretty amazing that we were able to pull all those folks together and come together and do something together to achieve a goal. What a unique thing, a unique concept. So like I said, I think you got some tough choices to make, but we've got some excellent panelists that you'll want to hear about or hear from. Feed off their passion. I think you're going to really learn a lot from them. And not only that, I think you're going to have the most fun in our session. So you really want to come to our session. So see you in Salon KLM at 2:45. All of you.
Thanks, Frank. And Chula Vista does do a lot of good stuff, and I get I keep telling about their stories, and I get asked other local governments tell me their stories as well. So tell me your stories, and I'll tell your stories as well. Sorry. Okay. Next, we have Margaret Bruce. She leads the climate group at Ecology Action, which runs with LGC and a lot of other people the statewide Energy Upgrade California program. And she's going to talk about the Energy Upgrade California program, which will be after the break in the afternoon in salons A, B, and C.
I don't know if they're going to have the most fun. I think we might be having the most fun. I'd like to make sure that you guys see the stars of our show. If we could have Joe Oldham and Jack Clark stand up or raise their hands. I see one of the two stars of the show. Who will be our panelists? I was thinking about the best way of describing the level of effort and the kind of work that these gentlemen do, and I think of them as knights. These are knights of energy efficiency. A knight of yore was someone who served their purpose, who steadfastly defended and advanced their cause, and who represented their realm with honor and distinction. And these two people, I think, represent that. Long before Energy Upgrade California ever came on the scene, these two individuals were representing their organizations, whether it's CCSE as an NGO or the County of Fresno as a local government, with great initiative, great passion and dedication, and great accomplishments. These knights, Jack and Joe, have been slaying the three-eyed dragon, the eyes being inefficiency, ignorance, and inertia, for years. So I invite you to come to the Energy Upgrade California session in salons A, B, and C, where we can perhaps see how they keep their armor polished, see how they sharpen their swords, maybe even see a few dents in the armor and how they've overcome those battles, and to share with the entire community how we can advance energy efficiency in California and slay that dragon. Thanks.
Wow, she took that seriously and she practiced. Next, we have Monica Gilchrist, and she's going to be leading the discussion on climate action planning, the more advanced track. The one in the morning, you're going to hear from Yvonne next, is going to be in the morning. This is the afternoon. So Monica is the interim California director, just recently appointed at ICLEI, USA, focusing on promoting and supporting climate mitigation, adaptation, and sustainability initiatives.
Thank you. This afternoon we have a very exciting session looking at the next steps in climate action planning. Excuse me, I ran, getting an LOI out and lost track of time. We have an overview of where climate action planning is at right now, and a real focus on the next steps. So looking at those inventories that everybody has been working so carefully on, and what can be done with them and in what context. We'll be having the city of Oakland, Garrett Fitzgerald, and San Luis Obispo will be giving in-depth sessions on how they have taken climate action planning to the next level. And I will be giving an overview of the SEEC resources and tools that are available to help cities in that position. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Monica. Sorry you had to follow Margaret. Sorry. Okay, next we have Yvonne. I've known Yvonne for a long, long time too, probably since 1993. She's a program director at the Institute for Local Government's Climate Action Program, and the Institute, if you don't already know it, is the nonprofit research arm of the League of California Cities and the California State Association of Counties.
And I'm demonstrating on behalf of all of us that local government is nothing if not flexible. We had a slight technical glitch, and Lindsay is helping to load up. See, there we go. 2 slides for later on in my presentation. So I'm number 1, and everyone who attends the Climate Action Planning New Champion session is also number 1. You can ignore the beacon slide right now. This session is in the morning, and we have 2 fabulous speakers. Unfortunately, they gave me the list of speakers that have the hardest last names to pronounce, so I'm just going to call them Al from the city of Aliso Viejo. He's the director of planning services. This is the sort of beginner's track for climate action planning, and both of these speakers are going to talk about their city's early efforts in moving ahead with climate action planning, how they proceeded. So Al's going to talk about what they have done. They call it the Aliso Viejo Green City Initiative, and in his summary he said he's going to talk about pratfalls in addition to successes. Those pratfalls is a more direct way of saying what we all euphemistically say now, lessons learned. Deborah from the city of Palo Alto is the assistant city manager for sustainability, and she's going to talk about how Palo Alto, as a small city, started on the road in 2007 to do climate action planning and greenhouse gas emissions, and what they're doing now to reach out to the businesses and the residential sector. While some of the other sessions might help you laugh and, as Frank was saying, get resources, I can guarantee you that at the session this morning you will learn the most. So that's my pitch. And we were asked also to suggest a question that you might ponder and learn about at these sessions. So I'm going to piggyback on what Al wrote on what he's going to talk about, and I think the question that everybody attending our session might want to think about and share with your colleagues is, gee, and this is more of a statement than a question, gee, if I only knew now, or I'm sorry, if I only knew then what I knew now, what would I do differently? So we want to learn from everybody's experience. Okay, Kate allowed me to take a little bit of my time to talk about the Beacon Award, and we have material in your packets. The Beacon Award is part of the SEEC collaboration. It's a program of the Institute that, with the partnership of all 4 utilities, to recognize cities and counties that are working towards and hopefully eventually achieve reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, save energy, and adopt policies and programs that support sustainability. I am ecstatic to say that we have about 25 cities and counties participating in the program, working towards one of the award levels. If you're from one of the cities or counties up there, do you want to stand? Because I know we have, come on, lots of Beacon participants. Hey, all right. And we have some elected officials and lots of staff. I'm going to try, if I can, to take a picture, a group picture. So if you'll indulge me, not now, maybe we'll do it before lunch. We'd like to get a group of all of you and record this for posterity, and we will send all of you copies of the pictures. And I'm going to take, since I'm the last one and I have the mic.
See, you were so strategic.
I was. I want to thank everybody on behalf of all of us attending and the SEEC partners. Thank the Local Government Commission staff for a fabulous job. Kate, Melissa, Michelle, everybody, thank you.